Okay, we're back, and it's now time for rants, and I'm going to bring it to you guys tonight. So here we go. Most of this is scripted, so apologies if you think I'm trying to be too reading from the teleprompter here. So I can't do this off the cuff half the time. So earlier this week at the day job, my Clark Kent job, separate from me doing the show here, a discussion arose between me and a coworker. And as much as I don't want to have any discussions with any of the people that I work with, because due to their upbringing and the gobs of privilege that they've had for years and years, it makes almost anyone completely blind to anything other than what they want to see. I, too, am a perpetrator of this to some extent, but not nearly the same level as these guys that I work with, especially this one dude that I was talking to. And anyone listening locally to this probably understands and knows that most older Mormon men who live in Utah are some of the most stubborn people you'll ever meet in your life. I digress, but he had started a discussion innocuously enough with him wanting to look into getting solar power for his house. Not for any altruistic reason, like being a better for the environment or anything like that, but because he's sure that there will be an EMP attack in our near future, and he plans on shielding all of his electronics to avoid it, and he wants to ensure that he'll be able to catch all of conference weekend, even if everyone is driven back to the Stone Age. The topic went around for a while because I absolutely love the current culture that we have in the state of actually getting solar power. It makes me giggle inside so hard to see all of the houses along my neighborhood with all of these solar panels bedecked on top of them. If you wanted a sure sign that we're living in the future promised all those years ago when I was a young kid, that's a good start. That's pretty fucking awesome. I love seeing that. Well, as most discussions with this person usually goes, he had to veer into the hard right territory of Alex Jones. And he claimed without any evidence that climate change is happening, probably, and it has nothing to do with human input. So at least he believes climate change is happening, but he doesn't think there's anything we can do about it. And so according to this asshole, the Great Barrier Reef dying, sea levels rising, the tundra melting has nothing at all to do with the massive machinations that we've introduced since the Industrial Revolution. It comes from a normal cycle of the planet just doing its thing. He went so far to claim that the data compared to the conclusions of many scientific studies is all a fabrication. It's a lie. All of it designed for them to get more funding for their studies. And I just have to say, bruh, do you even science? I was shocked by this because I was wondering, to what end does this guy not believe the consensus of scientists? Yet he also has 100% faith in his LDS religion. Nobody could change his mind there at all. So I decided to pose a question to the guy in a way a Christian would to us atheists, using their very own Pascal's wager. Normally, this is an argument I try to avoid and I absolutely hate, because it's assuming that in their narrow worldview might be the right one, not something where there is a definitive black and white issue like climate change and us being better stewards of this planet. I asked this guy, okay, you don't think it's man-made, but what if you're wrong? Why not live like we are having an effect on the planet? And I don't know of many times in my life where me using a shitty argument actually had a way of reaching somebody, but where I was expecting a complete rejection of my proposal, the guy actually listened and said, I hadn't thought of it that way. And for a second, I thought maybe he had I've converted this Asian guy to like logical thinking, but he had to ruin it all with they have you thinking that way so that they can sell you something. And there we have it. Paranoia rears its ugly head again.
Jesus.
So he went on to another tirade about how we have the technology to power everything with nuclear, but chose not to as it affects the energy company's bottom lines. He was bringing up liquid metal cooled reactors, which is pretty cool. And to be honest, I've read up on it. And especially the fact that Russia has been using it on all their like submarines since like the late 60s in the Cold War. And most of the aircraft carriers that we have use it as well. But let's get back to the discussion at hand. I guess what I'm trying to state here is that I can't wait for the old guard to die so that this old style of thinking goes away. I'm not saying trust scientists. I'm not saying to trust all scientists, but their job, their livelihood, their whole fucking culture is proving things false or fallacious. I don't think any scientist wants to be the one that tells you how fucked up the world is, but someone has to be the first to tell us we're fucked, and it takes a lot more of us to say back to them, okay, how can we help? And actually follow through. I honestly hope this guy does get his solar array. for his house because I don't give a fuck about the why. But inadvertently, he'll be chipping into using less grid power and making at least one more house less dependent on pollutive power. And rant.
Epic.
Yeah.
Good rant.
Old guys, man. Fucking old guys I work
Oh,
with.
Jesus.
Old Mormon
Yeah.
guys. They're just the worst.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
They make me crazy. Oh yeah.
All cringy
God.
angry.
You know, they
Yeah.
think it's those old Mormon men that think that the younger kids are entitled. But have you ever had a conversation with them trying to talk them into something?
Yeah.
There's your entitlement.
All right, let's see. So that does it for this week's episode. We're out to go record the secret patron show, which I know a lot of you guys are still checking out. I'm glad you're listening to it. But you're catching, honestly, the 6-month-old parts. If you want to hear the current stuff, all it takes is about $1 a week. You can hit us up at patreon.com/UtahOutcasts. We are reachable through all of our social media empire, through comments on YouTube, voice, text, email. You know how to find us. We put it just about everywhere. Thanks to Jeff and for Kyle for joining me this week. But sadly, this is the part when we must tell you guys that the Outcast will catch you again next week with a brand new episode. But until then, you're welcome.
So long, and thanks for all the fishes.
Good night, everybody.